Hello and welcome, my dearest friends. Today we are going to be looking at an RPG for the very first time. Now, there's one thing people know about RPGs, is that they tend to have overly long stories, and those stories tend to be rather ridiculous most of the time. So to provide you all with a bit more witty comedy this time around, I'm going to be riffing the entire story from start to finish, with a few bits here and there where I talk a bit about the gameplay now and then. So with that out of the way, let's take a look at today's game, that being Rogue Galaxy.
For those of you who don't know, Rogue Galaxy was developed by Level 5 and released in 2005 for Japan on the PlayStation 2, and then for the rest of the world in 2007. Level 5 has always seemed like their studio trying to get that Square Enix audience while also trying out new things now and then, but ultimately does end up getting kind of overshadowed by them most of the time. To be fair, they have released some top tier games in their time like Ni no Kuni, Dark Cloud, Dragon Quest VIII, and of course the Professor Layton series.
On the other hand, they also developed White Knight Chronicles, so a bit of a mixed bag here and there. But where does Rogue Galaxy fit in this all? Well, let's take a look for ourselves, shall we, friends?
We open to text on top of a starlit background setting up our story.
What's that you say? This opening seems very familiar to you? I wouldn't worry too much about it. I doubt you'll find any other tropes to be found in this game whatsoever.
The opening fills us in about some war that's happened across the galaxy and how the planet Rosa is currently under control of the Lungardian Federation.
This type of storytelling may have worked for that underrated sci-fi series you may or may not heard of, but a lot of what they talk about here plays no part in the overall story whatsoever. So we're off to a good start then.
We cut to our hero Jasta, making his way across the desert planet Rosa to the town of Salagin. After getting screwed over by some soldiers, because all government soldiers have it in their code of conduct to be arseholes in these things for some reason, he goes to visit his guardian Raul, a priest for the town's church. I must say, I'm a little surprised with its incorporation of giant automatic doors and holographic maps. What, no Wi-Fi? After hearing about a monster attack on the town, Jasta runs out to help, only to be cornered by a group of beasts. And yes, all enemies in the game are referred to as beasts here. I guess in the end, I take a name that was simple stupid rather than ridiculous stupid. While it seems that all hope is lost, we end up getting saved by a mysterious stranger. The mysterious stranger! Who aids us in fighting off the rest of the beasts. It's as good as time as any to talk a bit about the combat in the game. Like many classic RPGs, you have random encounters, but unlike most others, you actually fight in the same areas you traverse in, with the NPCs simply vanishing.
Erased from existence.
As for the combat, each character fights using both a main and side weapon, with Jasta wielding a sword as his main and a pistol as his side. Under each of the character's name is an action gauge. As you attack with your main or use abilities or items, it will decrease bit by bit. Once it's empty, you'll have to recharge by blocking with R1 until it fills back up. You can also use abilities that can help by damaging enemies, powering up attacks, as well as casting positive and negative status effects. The way you upgrade each character is with the Revelation Flow. Here you can unlock and level up many different abilities within your party. The catch, however, is that in order for you to unlock these spaces, you need to find various items you'll collect throughout your journey, which can be earned as spoils from your battles, finding within chests, or simply buying them from shops. While scavenger hunting for each item might feel rewarding at the game's beginning, you'll soon discover that some of these items are not going to be easy to find. In fact, some are just straight up impossible to obtain until you've reached the game's climax, and because there is no way to tell where you can find these items unless you've been keeping track, you'll be pulling up that Rogue Galaxy wiki page quite often. Anyway, back to the story. At one point, the stranger, the mysterious stranger, hands us a sword and runs away right as these two show up. Steve, a robot whose design and accent in no way resembles any popular science fiction characters that I know of.
Don't worry, he's somewhere on this planet. My instincts are infallible.
And Simon, an armadillo-looking man in a radiation suit carrying a rocket launcher, who is also Scottish.
Like I'm gonna trust a robot's instincts.
While on the subject, can someone explain Level 5's fascination with the inclusion of various British accents used in their games?
What would you call that, like a Britaboo maybe?
The two scan the sword that was just given to us and instantly believe that we are a famed hunter by the name the Desert Claw. They say they've come to recruit the Desert Claw on behalf of their employer, the legendary pirate Dorgan Goa, captain of the Dorganark. Jasta, not understanding what the hell's going on, just says yes so that way he can get the two of them to help him out in taking out the monster. As we face off against the monster, we're given instructions by Simon and Steve as to how to damage it. And I should mention that this is really the only boss that has this amount of strategy to it, with a few exceptions. Really, most of the time it just comes down to constantly attacking until they're beaten, because, you know, strategy is something most RPGs could do without. We're given a gun that can build platforms to jump up to the monster's weak point, and you may be thinking, wow, this opens up so many opportunities. Well, keep dreaming because this weapon is barely used anywhere else. Also, the platforming mostly sucks. After defeating the monster, Jaster decides to accept Simon and Steve's offer to join their crew, and from now on to when Jaster's true identity is revealed, you're going to be questioning just how dense everyone is when they fail to catch on this legendary hunter is only 16 years old and is constantly asking questions which you should already know the answers to. Before we head out to the ship waiting in the desert, Raoul parts some final words to us.
But I want you to remember something. You're the only family I've got. From the moment I first held you, a crying little baby 17 years ago, I've come to think of you as my son. And that, my boy, will never, ever change.
Raoul.
I'll be waiting here for your return. I'm sure it'll be a little lonely.
Wow, talk about guilt-tripping us into staying. What else you got up your sleeve, old man?
Also, did I mention I once had a family who tragically died? Also, the banker's going to take my home away. Oh, and did I mention I also have a terminal disease? But don't worry about poor old me. You just go off into space and have fun with your adventure. As Jaster makes his way across the desert, he comes across the Dorgan Ark. However... the ship decides to leave without Jaster, condemning him to the belly of the sandworms where he'll be slowly digested for the next 1,000 years. However, he ends up getting saved by Dorgango's daughter, Kassala.
We didn't mean to leave you out there like that. We fully intended to come back for you later, I swear.
Isn't that the same thing irresponsible parents say when they leave one of their kids at the park? Because I swear, if I don't get some forgiveness ice cream, I'm ramming this ship into the next asteroid I see.
So Jaster is finally off on his adventure, which we don't have any details about.
Well, I'm sure we'll find out more in a couple of minutes. Okay, we're going to be here a while.
Amongst the crew is Zegrum Gaunt, another hired hunter, and Mushar, this creepy cat thing who is also the captain's first mate. And naturally, with his being very anime inspired, who better to voice Zegrum but the gruff master himself, Stephen Bloom.
Anyway, nice to meet you, Desert Claw.
As for Dorgango himself, he is apparently taking an overly long nap at the moment.
I make fun of the fact that he sleeps longer than any normal person should, but that'd be very hypocritical coming from me.
After heading up on deck, we find out that we can breathe in space, apparently. Okay, so some of you are probably putting together that 1 or 2 people at level 5 may have watched Disney's Treasure Planet at one point. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. The idea of sailing ships in space has probably been used in other media before, and to be honest, not many people saw Treasure Planet, sadly. However, one thing I'll hand it to with Treasure Planet is that while we never really got an explanation as to how things like air worked in the film, they at least showed us why the olden time design was used, as the directors were trying to combine the 18th century novel with space, and even they made somewhat sense out of the use of such things like the sails. But in Rogue Galaxy, there really is no reason besides pirate ships are cool, I guess. It'd probably help if we had some form of database similar to the Mass Effect series, but sadly we're left to fill in the gaps ourselves. But back to the plot, Kassala gets to properly introduce herself to us right before the ship ends up having its own little random encounter with these space manta rays. The battle in turn leads to the ship crash landing on the jungle planet of Juraika. The ship manages to avoid any major blows, but is grounded without booster oil, which they have none of. But, coincidentally, Juraika is home to the fire fruit, which somehow contains the booster oil they need.
Sure, we'll just go with that then, I guess. Who knows, maybe pineapple juice is our way of unlocking interstellar travel.
So Jaster, Kassala and Zegrum head out to find some fire fruit, only to find themselves in the territory of the Bakukwins. With the fruit nowhere to be found, the trio decide to head towards the tribe's village. Unless those spears are forming a smiley face, I'd probably stay away myself. Along the way, they keep encountering roadblocks, forcing us to split off the path to get help from the village outcasts who bestow upon us things like the mighty power glove.
It's so bad.
Also, we get some bombs from this guy, which after talking to him makes me question why bombs seem to be so common in video games all the time. We also run into some kid who I swear, just based on his design, has jumped right out of a Pokemon game.
He's going turbo, man! Burn him to the stake before we all get unplugged!
In actuality, this kid is catching bugs for a tournament, which you can enter in as well later down the line, given you can find some of your own. I'll be honest, in all my playthroughs, I never once took part in them just because it didn't seem like much fun, and catching bugs just seemed like a drag most of the time. We make it to the village, but are subsequently turned away.
Another piece of friendly advice. Don't go near the spring past here. Especially not today.
Also, don't make out my sister, and don't burn down my house, and don't steal from my bank account that can be easily accessed with a small piece of paper that I keep in my pocket that could easily fall out at any moment now. I'm watching you.
So the gang head to the spring where we see sisters Lilica and Miri, and because we suck at hiding, we are caught spying on them.
See, this is what happens when you decide to put those points towards magic and not stealth, guys.
While we're trying to explain our situation, something looks up and
Whoa, what the hell, guys? I thought this game was supposed to be 12 and up.
Kasala gets taken by some giant toad, leading to Jasta, Zegrum and Lilica fighting the beast, which in return keeps killing my teammates because they don't think to maybe jump onto land when the boss is about to shock the water. In the end, we manage to slay the beast and end up saving Kasala and are given the thumbs up to go inside the village. While heading out, we're stopped by another toad, only this one's less touchy. Well, almost anyway. He says his name's Toady and asks that we bring him along with us and that in return he can combine weapons once we've used them enough to make slightly better ones. Upon reaching the village and sticking their noses in the village's affairs again, they learn that Miri is going to be sacrificed to the Star God, who they believe is poisoning their people.
It's too bad it's not the Star-Lord they're dealing with, otherwise they could simply challenge him to a dance-off.
Despite Lilica being the head warrior, she can't stop them, with the only person speaking out against the ritual being Miri's boyfriend Quan, who I have to say does look a tad old to be dating her. But then again, when sacrificing a child is laid out as a possible option, I doubt age of consent is much of an issue here. The next day, the gang decide to drop the quest to find the fruit and instead decide to follow Lilica and Miri to where she's supposed to be sacrificed. In order to get there, we end up finding a freeze gun and along with a platforming gun, we're able to climb up a now frozen waterfall. Before we catch up to Lilica and Miri, Zegrum runs off to call someone, blatantly hinting that he's actually working for someone else.
God damn it, guys, I want cool guy Stephen Bloom, not bad guy Stephen Bloom.
Despite Jasta and Kasala's words of wisdom, Lilica still finds it yes to obey her people's laws, until it just so happens that the Star God is in fact some weird spider worm thing that I'm pretty sure is just the infected boar in the opening to Princess Mononoke. The monster also turns out to be the one responsible for blinding Miri and killing the two sisters' mother. Using our new ice gun, we're able to stun the beast, and with Lilica's help we manage to kill the villager's god.
Now you forever worship me as your new god!
In the aftermath, Lilica is banished for killing the Star God, but really it's just to keep the tribe calm for the time. After all, it's not easy finding out that your god is a giant spider thingy. The chief mentions that he wants Lilica to explore the galaxy and learn about the advanced civilizations that are out there, so that she can take his place as leader of the tribe and bring their people into a new age. Despite the storyline going on for quite some time and Lilica failing to defy the village sooner bugging me, I still found this little tale to be very satisfying, and having her being sent off as an ambassador similar to Wonder Woman was a very smart idea and gave her probably the strongest motivation out of the entire cast. So Zegrum out of nowhere pops back up with coincidentally the booster oil from the fire fruit they need, and Lilica asks to join them on their adventure. With the ship repaired, we set sail yet again for the planet Zerad, where we continue our grand adventure to... I'm sorry, what are we doing again?
All right then, we're to proceed on our new mission, renew the galactic travel visa. Allow me to explain the details of your mission. Head to the Galaxy Corporation and renew our visa.
That's it? What's next, paying our taxes after we've gone to our kids' Christmas production?
Well anyway, we land on Zerad where we are stuck here until we renew our visa. Jasta heads out alongside Simon and Lilica to the Galaxy Corporation to do so from this lady.
Oh, I'm so sorry. The Galaxy Corporation has temporarily suspended visa renewals. Boo-hoo. Come back again, okay?
Huh? What are you talking about?
In case you haven't noticed, we've had a bit of a small problem, okay? Everyone, knows this already.
Explain it so we understand!
I'm just gonna call it right now. Lilica is my favourite character in the entire game, no contest.
As Lilica expresses her built-up rage for millennials, a small explosion suddenly happens near the Free, and because we're dressed up the way we are, we're of course blamed for the incident and shipped off to jail almost instantly, courtesy of Zegrum, who felt that Jasta was getting in the way a bit.
Which when you think about it, doesn't really help you guys out either, seeing as how we still have the card on us, so you guys aren't really going anywhere either.
Despite our cries of innocence, we're thrown into the city's uber-large prison by Warden Rosencaster, who as it seems is designed to look like Frankenstein trying to cosplay as M. Bison. All hope seems lost for the trio until a group of soldiers turn up to break up the cloaked cellmate they were paired up with. This location kind of begins a trend that I noticed within the game, and that is the game's dungeons really start to become way too big and way too repetitive. It's bad enough it just goes on and on and on and on, but at times it seriously feels like they just end up copy and pasting most of the environment just so they can stretch out the game some more. It's ironic that level 5 will later go on to create Ni no Kuni, one of the most gorgeously created games I've ever seen in my my life. So then, as the group journey upwards in the hope of escaping, they'll find out that Rosencast has been experimenting on prisoners so as to create super soldiers for Combu Lady here's employer. As we finally reach the near top, we go face to face with Rosencaster. You know what's something you do a lot in this game? Healing and reviving teammates. I swear, these guys drop dead every 15 seconds. After beating Rosencaster, we continue our escape while being fired at by soldiers who have such terrible aims they'd make stormtroopers embarrassed for them. Combu Lady shows up and subsequently fires Rosencaster along with a severance package in the form of a bullet to the head. As our heroes finally reach the surface, the mysterious cellmate departs and reveals himself to be some sort of cat person.
We'll probably cross paths again someday.
Spoiler, Just and his group never reunite with this guy, so that line was pretty much pointless. As we make our way back to the Galaxy Corporation, take another swing at getting our visa renewed, we see Cat Person addressing the people on a giant hologram. Turns out he was some important admiral who was campaigning to end the war that we still know nothing about, by the way. We then come across this lady and her daughter who've been searching for the father who disappeared from hospital after an explosion happened at work. While Jasper and Lilica have no idea who he is, Simon seems to brush off knowing anything about him and turns his back to the mother and daughter.
Gee, maybe if the father were here, he could tell them that he's alright and stop them from getting hurt both mentally and physically. No? No? Nothing at all? No one wants to say anything? No? Alright then, fine, moving on.
Steve ends up swapping over Simon because reasons, and we once again have a go at the visa, only to be told that the system is down due to a hacker taking over the mainframe from the Datron factory and is ransoming it after being fired. Despite hunters being hired to resolve the matter, none have succeeded, so of course, this being an RPG, the burden has fallen upon us now. They manage to convince the police to let them in after they mention that Jaster is the Desert Claw, and seriously, even the police don't find it all a little fishy that this legendary hunter is a mere teenager. The group make their way through the factory, which again is repetitive and boring, with them eventually coming across this guy, Dr. Picacho, who as it so happens is Steve's creator and has been working in the factory ever since his son died. We come face to face with a hacker who is named Jupus, who is almost reaching Jar Jar levels of annoying and always seems to yell his lines in the most painful way imaginable.
Forewarned is forearmed!
The fight hits a snag when the heroes are unable to shut down Jupiter's shield until Picacho shows up to hand us a gun that can deactivate it. This, like a lot of things, proves to be a bad gameplay decision, as throughout the game now you'll occasionally fight enemies with shields around them, meaning that if you want to even land a hit on them, you have to go into your inventory, find the correct gun, equip it, shoot the enemies, then if you're stubborn enough, go back in and equip the previous one, only to repeat it soon after. After a few attempts, we finally manage to incapacitate Jupus, where he tries to justify his actions by telling us how his work partner ended up destroying his research, which he believes he did on purpose so that Datron could steal it all for themselves. Before Jupus can be handed over to the authorities, he ends up fleeing thanks to the ancient art of smoke bombs. Because the police chief doesn't actually have any reward money for us, he instead offers up one of the miniature factories where we can now craft new items using these puzzle-like assembly lines. Picacho is convinced to go back to his normal work and asks Steve we can call him now and then. I'll get into this more when we get towards the game's end. With the mainframe now fixed, we can finally get our bloody visa renewed. One thing that becomes available now are hunts, where as you can probably guess we go out searching for unique extra boss fights in exchange for cash and weapons. While it is nice to have some side quests now and then for us to do, there are some issues here. For starters, unlike most games where you simply pick up a contract and head out, you instead have to pay for each hunt for some reason. Secondly, because they never mark out where exactly you're supposed to go, we'll leave us some very vague descriptions most of the time. And third, in order to summon the boss, you need to have a particular item to get their attention, and unlike the upgrade board where you at least get a silhouette of the item we need, here they turn it into almost a riddle where we have to use the details given to us to identify the correct item.
What I'm trying to get at is that in most RPGs it's usually a simple step-by-step procedure, while here it becomes more trouble than it's worth.
But whatever, we get back to the ship only to discover that Jupus has decided to come aboard until the heat dies down a bit.
Can we just steal from him and then drop him off in the middle of space, seeing as how he did just try to kill us, and hey, we are pirates after all.
Oh wait, he makes delicious food? Oh okay, then all is forgiven then I guess. As the ship sets sail, it appears the captain has finally awoken at long last, and I think he might have caught on that Jaster is not Desert Claw.
You! You idiot! This runt ain't the Desert Claw!
What?
Quickly, Jaster, tell them you have a mental deficiency that forces you to become whoever they say you are.
You tricked us! Good grief!
I mean, I would never keep secrets from anyone, especially those I love the most.
The captain seems fit to throw Jaster off the ship, but Kassala stands up for him, stating that he's been loyal so far up to this point. Her father, though reluctant, agrees to give Jaster a second chance, and now, after almost 8 hours in, we finally get the plot to the game.
My ultimate goal is the legendary lost planet of Eden!
It's a phantom planet that vanished long ago.
Yeah, and they say it holds enough treasure to allow anyone to rule the entire galaxy.
Yeah, that's the one. And they say that on that planet, there are people there that live forever.
I remember now. Eden suddenly vanished from our galaxy some 10,000 years ago. Supposedly, they were even more advanced than Zerad.
So let me get this straight. We're searching for a long-lost planet that was home to an advanced civilization that had with them both technology and enormous amounts of wealth with them. Is it me, guys, or do they just combine the plots of Atlantis and Treasure Planet together? Because that's kind of what it sounds like here.
Oh, by the by, gotta give the writers credit for coming up with one of the most unoriginal names for a planet since Genesis. Also, there's this line.
And that's why I ordered you to scout out the very best hunters.
And by best hunters, I mean 2 of them.
So then where do they start off at? Well, according to this book of treasures, Eden is tied to these ancient tablets that rumour has it can reveal the planet's location. Apparently one of them was dug up on the planet of Verdan a few days ago, so our first mission is to try and get our hands on it. We land on Verdan, which I will say, at least in the cinematics, looks pretty well designed, though that could just be because it's the most original planet we've had so far in this game. Jaster, Kassala and nobody else for some reason head out into town to see if they can find any information that can help them in getting inside the mines where the tablet is being kept. When the two enter the town, they run into this guy, who I'm pretty sure, guessing from that nose of his, is just a much older Pinocchio. The guy's name is Bert, and as you can probably guess from that get-up of his, he's an explorer. Like us, he's come to check out the tablet, but has been having a bit of trouble with the local mob due to his constant snooping around. He tells us that we can get more information from a bar the miners hang out right before he bolts off, leaving us to deal with the angry mobsters.
And trust me, he only becomes even more arseholish as the game goes on.
After kicking the mobsters' asses, they head towards the bar, but not before we encounter these two again.
Mommy? Is Daddy here?
I'm not sure, darling. Well, he might be, but he might not be.
Out of the way!
Wow, you want to make this any more tragic for us?
When are we gonna see Daddy?
I'm sorry, honey. I'm so sorry for putting you through all this. Your daddy, he's working really hard to help people, to help the world.
This really isn't that funny.
So they make it to the miners' bar, which is being run by breasts here. Okay, fine, her name's Angela, who on top of having to run her own bar, is also having to run her boyfriend Digo's life as well. Digo is this super muscular half-dog, half-man hybrid who also is fitted with this mechanical arm, because why not at this point? Before Jaster and Kassala can ask questions, the scene is interrupted by the arrival of Gale, one of the mobsters' enforcers and a former war buddy of Digo's. While Burns attempts to convince Digo to help them out fall on deaf ears at first, he manages to convince him when he promises money out of the deal. Thus, Jaster, Kassala and Digo head out to grab some black market IDs in order for them to get inside the mines, and I've got to say I'm loving Digo's oversized "don't fuck with me" axe he carries around. Then again, with zombies prowling the streets, I'd say it's a justified precaution. After purchasing the cards, Gale shows up again, making it abundantly clear that things are going to go south if we continue to persist. After beating up more goons, Burton runs up informing us that Angela's bar is on fire. When we get back, we find out that Angela got out okay but is crushed over the incident. We cut to a flashback of when Digo and Gale served in the army and how in one of their battles they were mistakenly attacking civilians. In the attempt to end the fighting, Digo is fired upon, leading to Gale going on a rampage and Digo losing his arm. While this is a very tragic backstory, especially with both men losing much of their will to live thanks to the copious amounts of guilt they both have, we still though have no clear idea about this friggin' war.
Seriously, I knew more about the war in Howl's Moving Castle than I did with the one in this game.
Anyway, we head out to the mines in order to reach the tablet and to confront Gale. Unfortunately, Gale was smart enough to bring a mech to a sword fight, and finally we get a bit of strategy with our boss fight this time, with us having to take out the mech's arms before we can attack its body. The fight continues afterwards though, with Digo going toe to toe with Gale Gale alone. This fight, though pressuring seeing as how if we lose we have to start right back from the mech, does turn out to be one of the most memorable boss fights in the game, with us needing to block Gale's shots and time our attacks for when he's reloading. Though we successfully managed to beat Gale, the tablet ends up getting taken by Datron and... Wait a minute, that's the tablet?
Good lord, can you imagine Moses having to drag one of those things through the desert?
Speaking of which, how are we even going to get it out of here? I don't see any logs nearby that we could roll it on out. With the tablet sold off, Gale considers his job done and subsequently his partnership with the mob. However, it turns out the mobsters would rather Gale just be taken out because... reasons, I guess. Turns out Gale was told that if Eden was found, its vast resources would put an end to the war, which is probably one of the weakest lies I've ever heard, but even he admits he was grasping at straws. With his faith shattered once again, Gale heads off, leaving behind a coin for Digo. We return to the bar only to be told that Angela has left so that Digo can stand on his own again, and like any cheesy romantic movie, we have to have that scene where one of the lovers needs to catch the other before they leave. Digo reaches Angela and begs her to stay, which she does. He says he's going to find his spark once again by joining up with the Dorganarks for a while, and so we end our heart-filled chapter with Gale killing off the mob leader Moriarty and his goons, only to be stabbed by Moriarty's cowardly son, all while a pretty nice song plays over everything.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our first part of the epic yet ridiculous adventure that is Rogue Galaxy. Tune in to part 2 as we'll see even more action, more twists, and even more boobs. Don't forget to like and subscribe and check out more from the Hotcast Gamer on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you one and all, and good night.